Hi everybody, J.Hamilton here with Core Resonance and Core Resonance Colonies. We have Sumaya with us this evening.
Hi.
And we're talking about your experience with Colonies, or with our first colony. How do you remember the whole thing started?
Well, I got a phone call from Elise, and she just said a little bit, but it was enough to make me want to know more. And so we all got together for a potluck, I guess it was, and you started talking about coherence, and what was the other term? Not having resistance. That is what got me. The thing about resistance, more than anything else. And then you said a whole bunch of other things that just, it was like, I've been waiting on this for decades, something like this. Because I always wanted to be part of a group of people who were working to raise the consciousness of the world. And I had no really idea how to do that. I knew all the science behind it, the higher consciousness readings about it, but how do I tap into that and find a group? And then there you were. You were saying, let's do this thing. You called it a colony.
Yeah, so a colony is like a beachhead. It's like when we came over from Europe a long time ago, we started with colonies and grew a most magnificent country, if you will. And so, as I like to say, we can't go to other planets. We need to colonize Earth first, and we need to bring consciousness here. And actually, I've kind of discovered how to do it in that our nervous system is our center. Our nervous system, brain being a big part of that, is all on overload. And because we're on overload, we're in resistance. And when we're in resistance, we throw out the baby with the bathwater because we have this subtle connection always coming in.
Right.
Forests have access to it. Everything in the ocean, the weather, everything is plugged into innate intelligence. Everything's plugged into source. Cosmos, whatever you want to call it, and the humans don't hear the signal because we've got all this rigidity and all this racket going on in our nervous system.
Right.
So the idea is to quiet the nervous system through this specialized neurofeedback, for which we're all experiencing results and different kinds of experiences.
Yes.
So you initially got a call from Elise. We did the first potluck or so, I remember that, and then remember we did our first sessions down in what was still the media room. We were in the media room. We did our very first sessions, our first Longview. Larry stayed awake, if I remember, even that first time.
Yes.
And it's been going ever since. Now you have the disadvantage of having quite a drive, an hour each way, and so in some respects you're getting over there a little bit less. But tell us about what the experience is for you, and what it looks like, and what it feels like, and maybe even how it's all going to turn out.
Well, that's a tall order. How long do I have?
I would start somewhere.
Okay. Well, I started doing the Longview sessions, and you had said don't look at any of the numbers or any of that, but of course I did. I had to know. I had to know, like, how am I doing? Am I making progress? And there's this one little number in the upper right corner. I think you know the one I mean. And I kept watching that, and I wasn't making any progress. It was always somewhere around the 80s, 88%. I thought, that can't be good. This is just how my brain works. And then something you said gave me a clue that there was a part of my brain that I could tap into that might shift my experience in the Longview. So I experimented with placing my consciousness here in the parietals and here in the frontal lobe, and it really wasn't working. Nothing was happening. And oddly enough, because I'm trained in craniosacral therapy and I know the brain, and I put my consciousness back in the occipital lobe, back here, and voila! My score went way up to the high 90s. And I thought, this is pretty strange that would happen, because all I did was just sort of let my awareness be there. I wasn't pushing anything.
No buttons.
No buttons, no, I wasn't. So that was a rather revolutionary discovery. And it might not have been the result that you were talking about or looking for, but for me was pretty, it showed that I, in some deeper way, was interacting with the system and that something was shifting. So that was the first thing.
Get a high five for that. So introspection.
Yes.
Fancy mechanism for introspection.
Oh yeah?
Everything is within. The sooner we go within.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, I always thought of introspection differently than thinking about my occipital lobe. But obviously that did something. And then I began to notice with the Longview sessions that I felt as if I would come into the session like a cloth that was wrinkled. And that by the end of the session, I felt like I'd been ironed out. It's a strange metaphor, I know, but it did feel that way. So there was a smoothness, and I felt like I could just take a breath. And for me, that's good, because I can get very wound up about all the things on my plate and all the things I need to handle and take care of, and I get amped up, and my nervous system gets amped up, and then I start worrying, and it's weird. It's not good for me when that happens. So when I find something that allows me to just go from here down to here in the space of what? It was 15 minutes, really. We were doing 15, 20-minute sessions, and that would happen. And it would happen hooked up to some computer in some way, which sort of blew my belief system, because I've been a long-term meditator and spiritual practitioner in lots of different disciplines. And those things have all dramatically helped me with this issue of needing to calm down. However, I was really surprised.
Well, curiously, you think of computers, you assume programs and you assume programming.
Yes.
And this is the opposite. The only use for the computer is to allow the brain to discover itself. And the screen, if you will, and the software is a mirror for the brain when it's given an exercise to see its own feedback. And that's something that really hasn't been done. We're all trying to learn how to meditate and become empty, but why not take the nervous system, the brain of which is the very largest part, and have the parts talk to each other? In other words, let the brain discover itself, and in discovering itself, clean itself up. The static and noise and racket goes down.
Right.
Connection with the cosmos, which was always there, simply becomes available, and your life and your outpourings of your life start to shift. When that becomes evidence.
Yes.
Something's going on.
That's right, and that was my experience. I mean, I can experience that result with maybe half hour, an hour of meditation, of feeling more ironed out and calm and slowed down. But I just didn't expect it to happen with the core resonance system. Honestly, it didn't.
Well, damn it did, didn't it?
Damn, it did.
All right, so what? So you have your experience and your insight into what all this is. What do you expect of it for you? Then I have another question.
Okay.
No, one question at a time.
What's the question?
What do you expect of this? In other words, now that you have a foundation in this, you have a sense of the ability to shift with it, or it's shifting you, really. What do you project is the possibility for yourself?
For me, I'm shooting for total enlightenment. Because I think that having been a long time student of many spiritual disciplines, that what I've identified in myself and as a meditation instructor, what I see with other people, is that there is a tremendous amount of resistance to letting go and letting something much bigger be your experience. It's terrifying, it's frightening. And I do it, and I know other people do it. All spiritual practitioners have to face this at some point or another throughout their time of being practitioners. And I've identified my own resistance, and it shows up as the busyness of my mind and the way that I get stressed. And really, my life isn't that stressful. So obviously, there's some other factor going on there where I'm allowing this to happen so that I'm not facing the big opening, which is the thing I most want and have wanted for decades. I started meditating 50 years ago. So I see this as being one of the powerful tools that will help me settle that resistance. Just let it settle all the way from here, way down to here, and maybe it'll vanish altogether, and my resistance to becoming one with the divine will just be gone.
That is what we're working on, partnership with the whole.
Yeah.
And so curiously, meditation for me has been that experience ultimately of learning how to listen with the nervous system. I mean, that's what it was like for me. And what I see now as we advance all of these ideas, that our connection with the cosmos is something we feel or we sense for, and in a quieted mind, in a quieted nervous system, the insight from sensing out, looking for that, starts to become available. So meditation doesn't have to be different from that. But again, for me, meditation was the act of learning how to listen with the nervous system, which again is a sensing in an alternative format to the ears or whatever. And so as we quiet the nervous system, that capacity to sense out, which frankly is always going on, but the information coming back becomes more available. And that shows up as guidance. And there's no programming in this whatsoever. We're identifying the nervous system as like a living antenna system. It's really a matter of tuning it attuning it to what's true. And you can't do it in a rackety, noisy brain and nervous system. You want to quiet it down. And so the neurofeedback allows the nervous system and the brain, the components, to talk to each other, kind of mesh, quiet down, become whole. Even better terms, become coherent. And as we have coherence, we have resonance. Coherence within, resonance without. And that's the game we're playing. And ultimately the idea, of course, is to have colonies, groups of people that do this and become coherent, allow innate intelligence to express through them with no distortion, and make a difference.
Yeah, that's what I feel is the most exciting thing about the colony, is that we're all working together, not only to help ourselves, but to expand our expansion out into the collective. And that, I feel that that's what's most needed in the world. Yeah. There's so much pain and frazzling, and there's so much just war and suffering in the world, and it really doesn't have to be that way. I don't think it was ever designed to be that way. And anything that we can do to ameliorate that is worth doing. And so to me, that's why I got excited about the colony. The way you talked about it, I got it. I could see.
There are some people that simply have the capacity to, it's their very nature to want to contribute like that. And this becomes a tool for those people. This will never be for the masses. It might be for a third of a third of a third of a third or some number, but it doesn't take very large numbers to be influential. And let me say, the world as we think we know it is held together by the cheapest of glue. In other words, fear and hatred and anger and resistance and doubt and this and that. It's the cheapest glue to hold reality together. And you come in with and deliver coherence, and that glue will fall apart far faster than you have any idea, because there's nothing but the repetitive nature of the dumbness that keeps it going. You come in with something clean, and coherence dissipates disorder. And that's what we're learning about here.
Yes. Let's dissipate disorder.
Yep. So anyway, Sumaya, thank you for participating here, and we're going to continue. I'll take one more high five. There we go. Thank you.